I've done over 7 figures in profit from selling all kinds of print-on-demand products, from t-shirts to mugs and posters and even stickers and face masks. And today, I'm breaking down the exact process that I use to come up with and make best-selling designs. There are a lot of tutorials out there, but this one is gonna be a little different. I'm not gonna show you how to make 1 or 2 designs, but instead dozens of designs per hour using a method you probably haven't heard about before. If you've tried making print-on-demand designs before and it's been hard, or your products haven't gotten any views, it's probably because you haven't tried design hacking. I'm going to show you exactly how I come up with ideas and inspiration, check those ideas for trademark, and literally assemble the designs. Even if you've never made designs before and are a complete beginner, this will work for you. To use this design hacking method, you'll need a Canva account, and you'll want to come in Canva and create one of these whiteboards, and then just give it a name, so I'll call mine print-on-demand designs. Now, Canva is free to use at first, but to unlock the rest of the features, it's $15 a month, which is definitely worth it. Just remember that this is a business, so while we'll try to save money wherever we can, just like how you have to buy gas for your car to get to work, you have to invest in your business so that it can work for you. Now, most of the hard work is done before we ever even have to make any designs, and that's why I start the process at the very beginning with niche research. Since the best-selling print-on-demand shops all have hundreds or maybe even thousands of listings, our goal is to be able to make dozens of listings at a time so that we have the best chances of actually posting a bestseller for sale. By the end of the video, you'll have more designs than you'll know what to do with. The thing about niches that nobody really explains is that no matter how big or small it is, you can make money with it. So we'll create designs for every single niche we can think of, and it isn't nearly as much work as it sounds like. I start by using ChatGPT, which you can get for free, and I'll type in something like, give me a list of the 50 most popular hobbies, sports, and activities that I can use as niche ideas for my print-on-demand business. And then as I let this generate, it's gonna give me a huge list of ideas that I can use to make designs for, assuming you have no idea what to make. Then I'm just gonna go through this list and pick an idea that jumps out at me, and we'll plug it into the search engine for whatever platform we'll be selling on. Now, Etsy is where I grew my first 6 and 7 figure shops, and it's where I grew a brand new shop from $0 to $100 a day in profit in just 2.5 weeks time using this exact design strategy. So I'll be using Etsy as the search engine for today. But the research method should really be the same no matter what platform you're selling on. Now, before we go spending a bunch of time doing a bunch of research and making designs that are never gonna sell, we need to validate each idea. ChatGPT gave me this idea, which is reading and book club, and I could go ask it for even more super niche ideas. And then after I let it generate, you can see there are some pretty good options here. The goal when making designs is to make something that's slightly more targeted instead of super broad. So instead of just books, book club could be perfect. So I think Chat did a good job here. So I can go on Etsy and search for the first niche, which is book club, and we'll use sweatshirts. But don't worry, this will work for any product that you're selling, and I'll show you a lot of examples. Now, this entire first page is filled with mostly best-selling listings. The first row is typically ads, but besides that, these are typically the best listings. And from a glance, we can see things like the amount of reviews that a shop has gotten, and if a listing is a bestseller at the moment. Right off the bat, we're just trying to identify which are the best-selling listings. Typically, these bigger shops with more reviews will have better and higher performing listings, but the goal is just to click through and find listings that have performed well. This also lets us find listings with the correct art style, because if you're trying to use this anime style font to sell a gardening product to grandmothers, it's probably never gonna work. So here's an example listing that's performed pretty well. It's a really simple design in my opinion, but it still looks really nice. So it's got this semi-blocky, kind of sporty font with some good colors, and this listing has done 323 reviews. So you'll usually get about 7 to 10 reviews per sale. So at an $8 profit per order on the sweatshirt, this listing is likely made around $20,000 of profit. That's why you never underestimate even the simplest designs. Here I could just right click, and I want to click copy the link address to this image, and then back in my Canva whiteboard that I made, I'll just paste in that link. It'll create this little preview so that I can reference it later, and I don't lose the link to the listing. Now, it can be a good idea to make more broad designs like this coffee and books design so that you get kind of a good understanding of what works overall. But even if you're making this type of design, you need to be more specific with the targeting to get it to sell. Think about it like this. People interested in a book club will definitely like books, but people who like books might not necessarily want a book club product. Trying to get our products to rank for the books niche would be extremely difficult, but the book club niche is just a lot less saturated. Just so you can start to understand why making targeted designs works so well. If we're making designs for people who like books and reading, I can use Listing View to analyze the book sweatshirt niche and see how it would perform. So here you can see that this niche pulls in a good amount of views, but there's also a ton of competition. It would be really hard to get our designs to rank for this niche. But if we make designs for something like book club sweatshirt, even though it's only a little bit more specific, we're automatically dealing with less than half the competition. And you can see it's an overall much more active niche with a way better score. You can also see other recommended niches and keywords below, and you can filter them out by the best options. These are the keywords that we would want to use in our listings to get them to sell, whether or not you're making specific or general designs. And what's even better is we can come over to this listings tab, and this will show us a list of the top performing listings matching this keyword search. Now I can filter these out by sales, and this is basically just a huge list of the best selling listings right now in this niche, giving me tons of design inspiration. I can click through one and view it on Etsy, and then I can add it to my Canva file the same way to use later as inspiration. Since I know that this is a good niche idea to target, and I have a list of high quality keywords that I can use to get this type of product to sell, I can go through that huge list of listings and basically have unlimited design inspiration. The reason that doing research is the very first step is because you want to avoid spending time making a bunch of designs that never sell, so that you don't get discouraged and give up too soon before you post that listing that changes your entire life. I'll repeat this process with several designs that I want to try and make that day, but I've gone ahead and gotten a few more so that we can see what we're doing. With all of our inspiration collected in Canva, it's time to start design hacking by extracting these successful elements. Instead of just copying one of these designs, we're going to look at the successful elements that make up the entire design. This includes the fonts, the colors, the graphics, the sayings, and the formatting of the design. I'm going to make several designs here in this video. The important thing to remember is that quantity over quality always leads to quality in the long run. I always start with the most important elements first, which is fonts. The good thing about using Canva is they give you tons of free fonts that you can use, and even more when you pay for the subscription. And chances are that you'll be able to find the exact or at least very similar fonts to the ones working on best-selling listings on Etsy, especially considering that almost all print-on-demand sellers on Etsy use Canva to make designs. But if you can't find a particular font, you can always take an up-close screenshot of the font itself and then upload it to a reverse font lookup tool like this one, and it'll try and help you identify the exact same or at least similar fonts. And these usually just cost a few dollars for the commercial versions. And then if you do end up buying it or downloading custom fonts, you can click upload a font button in Canva and upload the font to use on all your designs. Again, Canva has enough and you don't have to buy fonts to be successful here, but if you're going to, I definitely recommend a font pack off of Creative Market since you'll get the most value for your money. Right below the subscribe button, I'll have links to everything in this video, including a free Canva template with the best-selling fonts that I've used all in one place. Once you figured out what fonts you're selling, you might want to add effects to them. For example, in Canva, you can go to the apps section and look for the Type Warp app. When you run it, this lets you warp text and fonts similar to how the popular designs do it on Etsy. But you can also just add a simple bend by going to the effects and then changing the curve for that text layer. Once you've collected some fonts that have been proven to work on other listings, we can start laying out some sayings. Now, to avoid legal trouble now and down the line, we're only trying to make our own original designs by sampling successful elements of listings proven to work. So before we go any further, I can't stress this enough, you cannot copy anyone's designs. That said, there's only really two ways to come up with trademark-free sayings that we can use in our designs. The first is saying templates. For example, as I scroll through these results, you'll probably start to notice that a lot of these sayings appear over and over again. Now, if a design saying says, I closed my book to be here, think about what else that design could say. So we could say something like, I stopped reading to be here. Or for other niches, we could say, I stopped cooking to be here, or I stopped baking to be here. You see the point? Instead of, I'd rather be reading, we could change reading to any other action or noun, like teaching, baking, studying, diving, or really any other niche. We can also use ChatGPT to come up with some sayings. I could prompt it by saying something like, give me a few trademark-free sayings that I can use for my print-on-demand sweatshirt targeting books or readers, etc. This will give me a list of some sayings, but I could also prompt it using something that I know might work a little better. So I could prompt it saying, give me a few trademark-free sayings that I can use for my print-on-demand sweatshirt that is similar to I'd rather be reading. And these results should at least be a little bit more targeted. These template sayings are the best because you're not just making one design, you're making dozens of future designs. You can just switch out a word or two for something else and target a completely different audience. And plus, it makes the trademark checking a lot easier. You want to come to this website that I'll have linked down below and type in the saying for your saying template. And then here you just make sure that you uncheck all the dead trademarks so you don't see expired results. And this will give you a list of all of the sayings that contain I'd rather be that you can't make. So there's a few in here that we'd have to avoid, but for the most part, I think that we could use this template to still make a lot of designs. Once we have a saying that we know we can use, I'll just copy it and then I'll bring it into my Canva whiteboard and just paste it in. The next element we can extract is the colors. I like to grab colors out of existing designs to use in my own designs. So if I just press R on the keyboard, it'll make this rectangle. And then you can come up and click the color section and press on add a color and then grab the eyedropper tool. And this lets me extract the exact color that's used in any image or design. And when you click on it, it also adds it to your document colors so that you can come back and reference it later. See, colors, super easy. But arguably the most important element that can really set you apart from the competition is your graphics. There's really only 3 ways that you can use to get graphics and artwork for your designs. Now, it's very difficult to get graphics completely for free, but some methods are more affordable than others. First option being a subscription service. Websites like FreePic have huge libraries of graphics that you can access for just a monthly subscription fee. So if you need a flower graphic, you can for sure find something that would work in here. But the important thing to remember is that with these types of subscription services, they only let you use the graphic as part of the design. So you can't just download a graphic and use it as your entire design. But the second option is pre-made designs. When you come across a design like this, chances are that the seller didn't make the artwork because it's pretty complex, but instead they bought it pre-made. So you can usually find these types of graphics right inside of Etsy if you're good at searching for it, and then you can buy it for a few dollars. And the good thing is that you already know it sells well, but you also need to know that Etsy doesn't exactly allow sellers to sell the exact same design because everything posted on Etsy has to be unique. So although this happens all the time, it's technically against the rules to sell the exact same design without making any changes to it. But let's be honest, the best way to get graphics in 2025 is to use AI. You probably all saw this coming, but with Midjourney version 7 coming out in just a couple weeks, it would be silly to ignore how powerful AI image generation has become. We can make all kinds of designs, from little graphics to clip art to even full-size paintings. To do this, you need a Midjourney account and plan, which is $10 a month for the cheapest option, but I highly recommend it because it's the easiest and highest quality image generator you can use. You can access the web version at alpha.midjourney.com. Now, here on the Explore page, you can browse through all the images that other users are generating publicly. You might even find some design inspiration if you scroll through here enough. And if you're interested in any one of these designs, you can click onto it and you can view the prompt that they used and the settings that they used to make that image. You can also use the search function to search for other images that have been made by other users, which is extremely useful if you don't know how to write your own prompts. So we could look for black and white wildflowers in a vector graphic. And here we can dial in what we're looking for so that we can learn how to make our own similar images. Once we know what can work, let's make our own designs. So staying on this same book theme, let's try to make a book graphic. So first I'll search for something like a stacked books graphic, maybe rustic stacked books graphic on a white background. So let's see if I can find one, and I'll just try and pick one that I like, and we'll use the exact prompt. And then I'll click on this use image button at the bottom. And what that's going to do is it's going to reference this design when making my new design. You can also add multiple images to a prompt if you want to reference all of their styles. And then I just have to click enter. I'm going to do this a few different times with different images just so that we have the best chance of actually getting something good. Then I can go to the create tab and look at the images that I've been able to make. When I click on one of the images, I can just click this upscale subtle button, and this will make a larger version of the image that I could actually use in my designs. Depending on the artwork that we're trying to imitate, we can also create our own prompts completely from scratch. So let's try to do a dog image similar to this one in a minimal line drawing. So we'll just try a minimal pug, a bulldog one-line drawing, and we'll see what we come up with. Again, a completely different style, but this really wasn't a problem for Midjourney. Finally, we can use the settings tab to get some really interesting designs. These aesthetic settings basically change the algorithm and can make basically your image a lot more crazy if you're into that. The stylization, weirdness, and variety all kind of do different things to the image, so I'll put some examples on screen. But to start, I definitely recommend keeping the settings on their default. The model lets you switch between standard and raw mode. This is more of a subtle change to the image, and I found raw mode can work a lot better for things like paintings. This version lets you switch back in time to older Midjourney models. I typically don't really like them, and I think that they look a lot more AI, but it's completely up to you. And then you have the personalization. If you come to the personalization tab on the left, you can start to rank images as a part of your profile. Now, this is completely subjective and up to you, but Midjourney will just show you 2 images, and then you click on the one that you like more, and that one gets saved to your profile. The more images that you rank, the better Midjourney learns the style of image that you tend to prefer. I found that adding a profile does tend to get you better images. We can also change the image size. If you're trying to make posters, for example, you could change this to 16 by 20, and then your generated artwork would be sized accordingly. But let's say you wanted to make a design that wraps around the outside of a mug. When you click on Start Designing for a product in Printify, you'll be able to see the print size area for that exact product. This is the size that the artwork needs to be. So in Midjourney, we can use that value to set the image size, and then when we generate our image, it will be sized perfectly to fit that print area. This works especially well if the product itself is fairly small, so that the artwork is still high quality, and so that we don't have to take extra steps to make the artwork usable. Always make sure that your artwork is upscaled in Midjourney so that you're using the highest image quality possible. And with that done, we'll have to make it usable for our print-on-demand design. If you're selling something like a poster or a mug wrap, then you can download it and sell it as is. For graphics like this, you'll notice that it has a solid background color that we need to remove so that we can use it. So I'll just right click and copy it, and then I can paste the upscaled image from Midjourney right into Canva. Now Canva has this super easy background remover tool that just works off of one click of a button. This graphic is now ready to use on shirts, mugs, socks, or anything that I'm selling. And since we made it in Midjourney, we already own the rights to it and are generally much safer from trademarks and copyright. Now, graphics like this that are between 1 and 5 colors in the whole design, when you paste it into Canva, you can come over to the app section and search for the Tracer app. Now, this will let us vectorize the image or turn this image into a vector. So once it's done tracing our image, we can add it back into the Canva board, and this lets us modify this AI-generated artwork as a real vector graphic, which means I could zoom in and scale it up as large as I want. You can see the lines are crisp and I don't lose any detail, but I could also change the color on it because it's a vector graphic. You can't really change the colors of standard image graphics. Just know if your designs have lots of colors, the vectorized artwork won't look good. Now that we have all of these successful elements in our Canva board, I can start building out designs to sell. And instead of trying to make each design perfect, try and make a higher quantity of designs. They'll become higher quality over time. So to start, I could use this graphic as design number 1. I could just do the graphic by itself. Now, let's use the graphic a second time to make another design. And this time we'll also add one of our sayings. So let me grab one of these sayings. We'll add it right there. And by the way, I'm holding down the Option key and click and dragging the elements, and that's how you make a bunch of these copies really quickly. Now, maybe I want to change up the font to something that worked over here. I think this one looks good. And then maybe I want to give this text a little bit of an arch. So I'll go to Effects and I'll add that in. And now let me copy the entire design, and I'll add a new saying into this design. And this time, again, I think I'll change out the font. Okay, I think this looks pretty good. Then I can make these sayings their own designs as well. So I'll just copy them and move them over and make a couple of different styles here. You can use the font from one design, the colors from another, and the formatting from a third to make a completely original design without copying anyone or being a design genius yourself. I think these designs are okay, not my best work, but what's cool about these is I could go make a new graphic in Midjourney and I'd have a new batch of completely fresh designs. I could also change out the verb. So instead of read, I could say something like study or teach. The graphic sort of already works here, but if we changed it to run, we could still use the templates as long as we switched out the graphic. For every template that you create, you're essentially making dozens of future designs. If you went back to step one and started putting all of those different interests into the templates, you would literally have hundreds of designs in minutes. The only way to make great templates is by starting today and to keep practicing until you get good. Once you have 100 templates, you can edit them and create 100 designs in a matter of minutes. Plus, since we've already checked the trademark on those sayings, it also saves us time in the future from having to do that for every single design. Now, if you're actually going to take this serious and you plan on scaling this business to 6 or 7 figures, then here's some more free game. To properly size the designs that you're selling, open Printify and look for that product that you're selling. And when you click on Start Designing, you'll see this print area on the left side, so you want to write this value down. This way you can create a new custom size document in Canva that matches that exact size. Then to get the designs out of the whiteboard and into this file, I just have to select it, copy it, and paste it in and size it up accordingly. Now this also means that I could duplicate this and make a much smaller version if you wanted to put it kind of in the upper left-hand corner, which is a popular trick, which is yet another way to get a lot more designs with the same amount of work. I like to put all of these themed designs in a document and then give that document a name to stay organized. And when you're ready to export all of these designs, just make sure that you're exporting them with a transparent background. Getting too fancy and trying to do too many complex designs and cool effects will just slow you down. Countless bestsellers are the simplest designs. Don't sleep on simplicity. Now, what I'm going to share with you here is how I grew to over 7 figures. When you have all of these designs ready, you have to automate uploading them. Prelist has a Printify product uploader built in, and let me show you how quick and easy it is to use. If you're selling sweatshirts, you'll need to create a sweatshirt template in Printify, and all this means is that we have to select the product in Printify and then click on Start Designing. And then here is where we'll add in all of the colors that we want to sell for that product. Then we just have to add some kind of design. It doesn't matter what it is, we just have to add it so that we can save it and give this a name. So I'll just call this one sweatshirt template. And then I just want to copy the link to this product template. In the Prelist product uploader, just paste in the link to create a new template, and then I can use this template for all my bulk uploading. From here, I can just drag in all of those designs that I made, and they'll be uploaded to the product. But Prelist can also handle variations. So let's say that I have a white version of all of those designs that I also want to upload. Well, I can just add a variation, and I can select the colors that I want this alternative design to show up on, and then I can upload the designs in that color. It links them all together without me having to do it. I can also give Prelist a list of keywords that I want to use in the title, and it will scramble the keywords for each listing, making all of them unique while ensuring that each one is the correct length. Once all my settings are ready, I can just click upload, and Prelist does the hard part for me. If I go over to the Printify account and I hit refresh, you can see that all the products show up here. And if I click on one, you can see that the black and white designs are on all the correct colors. These products would be ready to publish straight to Etsy. It handles all of the uploading and product naming so that I don't have to do it manually. The goal is to upload as many products as possible, and the strategies in this video help you do that. You can find all the downloads in the description below, and as always, I hope this helps.